Hello, world, and welcome to the In My Footsteps podcast. I am Christopher Setterlin, coming to you from the vacation destination known as Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Oh boy, stupid laws. We got a lot of them everywhere. This week it is mixtape number 4 on the In My Footsteps podcast, as we look at all of the stupid laws from each of the New England states. What started off as kind of a one-off on the podcast back in episode 108, celebrating my oldest friend Barry, turned into me just doing segment after segment for all the New England states. And here they are, collected for you. So whether you're from New England, outside of New England, not even in North America, sit back and relax and enjoy mixtape number 4 of the In My Footsteps podcast, Weird New England Laws. Welcome into Mixtape 4. I'm recording this from deep in the past. I'm taking this actual week off. It's 4th of July week, but I didn't want to have a blank week where there was no podcast for you, so I thought, why not put together a new mixtape, throw it together, and look back and laugh and shake your head at some of the weirdest New England laws. Weird, stupid, ridiculous, it's kind of all the same thing. I'm sure there are a lot of you in Massachusetts that look at the fireworks are illegal law and think that's stupid. It's alright, just cross the border into New Hampshire. I mean, don't tell anyone I said that. Of course, whether it's part of the actual canon podcast or a mixtape, I cannot get started without thanking my Patreon subscribers. So a big shout out to Lori, Mary Lou, Ashley, Kevin, Leo, Marguerite, Neglectoid, Crystal, Matt, Dr. Shrimp Porto Chico. Thank you all for being my biggest supporters, my biggest backers, those who literally put their money where their mouth is to support me, my never-ending quest to be a full-time, self-employed content creator. The podcast is just part of it. I've got tons of YouTube videos, blogs, 10 books. Big shout out to everybody who came out to my event at the Eldridge Library in Chatham last week. I had a blast there talking about 12 stories for 12 generations of Cape Cod history. If you missed me, I'm coming up again July 15th at the Snow Library in Orleans. Come on out. You can come in and listen to me talk about Cape Cod history in an air-conditioned library. All those events are fun and engaging and surprising to those who have known me a long time that somehow I became a public speaker despite being pretty introverted throughout most of my life. I don't know. When it came to the book events, it was basically, once I wrote my first book, there were people saying, well, if you want to be an author, you need to learn how to do public speaking. That's kind of how you promote your book. So yeah, I have a few more events during the summer if you want to come out and see me speak about one of my 10 books. Also, keep an eye out for the GoFundMe fundraiser for The Cabin, my feature-length film that I am producing, that I wrote. I will be traveling to film this movie sometime late in August. We're working on getting it funded. I am more than a third of the way to the budget, so I'm so thankful and grateful to everyone who has donated or who has shared the fundraiser. It is front and center at the top of the podcast notes, and those of you that follow me on social media, I share it pretty much every day because of course I should. It is the biggest project that I have worked on in my life. Producing and writing a feature-length film, that is a major deal, so yeah, I'm going to promote it and try to get it funded as best I can. But we can get into a little more housekeeping at the end of the podcast. Let's hit play on this mixtape and allow you to cast your eyes towards all of the New England states and some of the weirdest laws that each state has ever had. So let's dive into it. Weird New England Laws, mixtape number 4, starting now. I feel I accidentally stumbled upon a winner as far as top 5s go, as we're going to spend this week looking at some of the craziest, weirdest Rhode Island laws that are actually in the books. A brief backstory. I was first looking for weird facts about the state of Rhode Island, and all of the weird facts ended up being laws that I couldn't believe. So that's how this top 5 came about, and I enjoyed this one so much that I plan on doing all 6 New England states in succession. So if you like weird, crazy laws, get ready because they're going to be coming up for the next 6 episodes, including this one. The hardest thing here was narrowing down what was an honorable mention and what was the actual top 5. And we'll give you a little bit of a taste here as I do the honorable mentions first. So, honorable mentions for the weirdest Rhode Island laws. Well, first of all, if you have kids, don't get them cap guns because cap guns are illegal in Rhode Island. Other honorable mentions include the fact that it is illegal to coast downhill in neutral in your car. In the town of Scituate, where we went on a road trip a little while ago, the law says it is illegal to drive with beer in your car, period. Open, closed, if you have it, it's illegal. In the city of Providence, it is illegal to wear see-through clothing. And lastly, it is illegal to keep more than 11 inoperable vehicles in front of your house. So you can have 10 cars that don't work in your front yard, and that's fine. But those are the honorable mentions of just the wackiness that I found. So let's dive into the actual top 5. As with most of these lists, they are in no particular order. Let's start with number 1. It is illegal to throw pickle juice on a trolley. With these laws, I've tried to find when they were actually put on the books. This one I've had trouble finding. I don't know if this law, since trolleys aren't really a thing anymore, if it extends to buses or other public transport. I don't know why this would have to become a law. Was this something that happened a lot way back, a century or more ago? That people were getting on trolleys with a cup of pickle juice or a jar of it and throwing it on people? And is it only pickle juice? Does it extend to other juices from foods? Or, it's crazy. So if you were out there thinking of taking the trolley for some random reason, going back in time, don't bring pickle juice. And if you do bring it, don't throw it on people. Number 2, it is illegal to smoke a pipe after sunset in Newport. Newport is one of my favorite places in New England. But man, what kind of random weird law is this? Were they afraid that if you smoke a pipe when it's dark outside, you might drop the ashes and burn stuff down? That was basically the only thing I could think of, was fear of starting fires. At least today, with weather apps that have the sunset times on them, you can time your smoking your pipe, sitting out on the porch on a nice summer evening, inhaling all that smoke as quick as you can, knowing the cops are just patrolling the streets of Newport, waiting to catch someone smoking right after the sun goes down. It's an easy way to be a rebel. Smoke a pipe after dark in Newport and see what happens. Number 3, it is illegal to sell both toothpaste and a toothbrush to the same person in Providence on Sundays. You talk about having a lot of catches to a law. How dare these people want to have clean mouths on a Sunday? It's funny because I think when most of these laws that I'm talking about were put in the books, it had to be at least a century ago with most of them. And I don't think oral hygiene was that important to a lot of people more than a century ago. So what did people think it was bad? How dare you snobby people brush your teeth? But the fact that it's just Providence and just on Sundays? So I'm assuming if that was the case for someone, they'd go in and buy toothpaste at a store and then have to go back in with a fake nose and mustache and glasses to buy their toothbrush just so they won't get arrested. And what's the penalty for it? Go to jail for trying to get toothpaste and a toothbrush. Number 4, it is illegal to race a horse down a highway. This one is interesting because I believe it's actually legal to have a horse on a highway, but you just can't race it. And how are people going to know the difference between a horse just trotting or actually trying its hardest to get its top speed? Are the cops out there with radar guns looking at the horse saying, I think it's going too fast, let's pull it over? Has anyone out there ever seen horses on the highway in Rhode Island? Because what I've looked up, it makes it sound like that's all right. I've never seen a horse on 195. I do know if you get caught, you get fined $20 and you could be put in jail for no more than 10 days. So hey, it's worth giving it a shot. And finally, number 5 on the weirdest Rhode Island laws. I did save the best for last. It is illegal to intentionally bite off another person's limb. This one is crazy. The law says if you do it intentionally, leave a person limbless. So I guess it comes down to whether you do it intentionally or if it was by accident. If you fell down and were biting something as you fell and you took a chunk out of someone's leg, do you run away or do you continue biting through the leg saying, oh, it had to happen? What if their arm was trapped under a rock and you had to bite through it to get them free? You intentionally did it, but you saved their life. See, there's all these gray areas. But if you're in Rhode Island thinking of biting off someone's arm if it's trapped under a rock, remember, you could get up to 20 years in jail. So maybe hire a pack of wild dogs to come do it for you. And there you have the top 5 weirdest Rhode Island laws. Have you ever heard of any of these? Have you ever broken any of these laws? This was so goofy and so much fun finding all of these that, like I said, I'm going to do this for all New England states. So come back next time. It is not hard to find these types of weird laws for every state. So those of you that are listening that are not from New England or are just curious about what other states have weird laws on the books, they're easy to find. I'll put a link to one of these sites that I've used for my research in the description of the podcast to help you out. But this week we are doing weird Maine laws. Some of these seem like they are right out of Stephen King novels. And much like the Rhode Island list, I have a ton. So I've got 5 honorable mentions and 5 that will make up the actual top 5, but they're not in any particular order. And my definition of weird might be different from yours. So are you ready for the honorable mentions for weird Maine laws? Get ready, because the edibles are about to kick in. Honorable mentions. In the town of Huberson, it is illegal to eat 5 potatoes in a meal without giving one to each of your pigs. It is illegal to wear a helmet when driving a car. In Augusta, it is illegal to walk down the street while playing a violin. In Freeport, it is illegal to spit from a second-floor window. And lastly, it is illegal to sell a car on Sunday unless it's equipped with plumbing. Yeesh. That makes up the honorable mentions. How weird are these? Top 5 weird Maine laws. Starting with number 1. In the town of Wells, there is no advertising allowed in cemeteries. Where to begin with this one? You're standing there at a funeral for a loved one in the town of Wells, and over your shoulder is a huge billboard for life insurance or something. Or some of the tombstones end up like NASCAR uniforms with Tide logo on it. Has anyone out there ever seen advertising in cemeteries anywhere to the point where it would need to be put into law that you can't do it? I would think the closest you would ever get is if one of those planes flew overhead dragging the banner behind it. But I don't think there'd be any advertising for grave diggers. If you want your grave dug fast, call this guy. Or gravestone makers. Because who's touring a cemetery looking for advertising? It's not like the Yellow Pages. And why is it just in the town of Wells? Do they have this problem where they had to end up putting a law on the books? So no advertising in cemeteries in Wells is allowed. Period. But they just get weirder. Number 2, it is illegal to push a live moose out of a plane. It says nothing about dead moose carcasses if you're throwing them off into the woods. It doesn't say if it makes a difference if the moose has a parachute on or not. And if it has a parachute, it doesn't know how to pull the string anyway, so I guess that's useless. This one didn't have a specific town mentioned, so this is for the whole state of Maine, which leads me again to say, was this an issue? Was there somebody that kidnapped a moose and brought it up in a plane and threw it down over a town? Because moose are pretty big. It would be like dropping a Volkswagen Beetle out of a plane. And how would you get one into a plane? Do you have to shoot it with tranquilizers and drag it? Or do you coax it into the plane like a stranger with candy? What if you were transporting the moose somewhere else and it died during the flight? Could you then throw it out? So many questions about this. But yes, it's illegal to push a live moose out of a plane. Number 3, in the town of Rumford, it is illegal to bite your landlord. So your rent got raised, you're really angry, your landlord's getting in your face, you can't bite him. It doesn't say anything about throwing him down the stairs. This sounds like something that actually would have happened. That somebody either got their rent raised or were served an eviction notice or something, and they bit their landlord. And lawmakers in the town of Rumford said, we've got to fix this now. That's illegal. But again, it comes down to, was it accidental? What if you were yelling at your landlord and they got close and you were saying something with your mouth wide open and you accidentally bit them? Is this a defense you could use in court? Sort of like the Rhode Island law where you could not intentionally bite off someone's limb, but what if it's accidental? So it's illegal to bite your landlord in Rumford. Number 4, it is illegal to have an armadillo as a pet. What makes this even better and even weirder is the fact that you can own an alligator in Maine as long as you have a permit. An armadillo is like a bowling ball, and they're actually pretty cute. But an alligator could frickin' kill you. So you can't have an armadillo that could fit in the palm of your hand, basically, but you can own an alligator that you could then use on your landlord. You can't bite him, but the alligator can. Any of my listeners from Maine, did you know about this one? Do you know anyone that owns an alligator in Maine? Is it like the people that have the pythons as pets and then they let them free? Where they own an alligator, and God forbid if it got free and now you've got alligators that just live in Maine. But despite the dangers of alligators, they're legal, but armadillos are not. And finally, last but not least on the top 5 weird Maine laws is number 5. In the city of Portland, it is illegal to tickle under the chin of a woman with a feather duster. This sounds like something that the Three Stooges would have done in a skit, that Curly would have tickled under a woman's chin with something. In my research, I believe I read that things like this actually happened, which is why this specific law was put into the books. Who would have been walking around in Portland with a feather duster, just walking around with it, and then decide they see a woman on the street and they say, I'm going to go tickle her under the chin with this? I don't know why, but that just sounds like a very Maine type of law. And it doesn't say if you can tickle under the chin of a woman with something else, handkerchief, or one of those buttercup flowers to see if they like butter. But don't do it with a feather duster. And that will end this week's top 5 weird Maine laws. Had you heard of any of these, or have you broken any of these? Did any of you out there bite your landlord or throw a moose out of a plane? This week, it's going to be the top 5 weird Connecticut laws. If you want to find stupid laws for your own state, you can go to the website stupidlaws.com. That's one of the sites that I've gone to find the laws for the different New England states. I'll link to them in the description of the podcast if you need to go and see what your state's all about. And make sure, if you haven't, to go back to the other podcasts and hear what the other states' weird laws are so you can laugh. As with these lists, there are some honorable mentions to kind of get your mind working. And these have been hard to narrow down what's an honorable mention and what's in the actual top 5. But honorable mentions for weird Connecticut laws include, in New Britain, it is illegal for fire trucks to drive faster than 25 miles an hour, even when going to a fire. Also, you can be stopped by the police for being on a bike going 65 miles an hour or faster. There is also a $1 fine if you frown in public. That sounds like something out of the Twilight Zone episode with the kid that can read minds. Also in Connecticut, it is illegal to intentionally release more than 10 helium-filled balloons, so don't do any crazy gender reveals. And finally, on the honorable mentions, it is illegal in Connecticut to see a UFO, so keep your eyes closed at night just in case. So those are the honorable mentions. Let's get into the actual top 5. These are in no particular order, and we're going to kick off the craziness with number 1. In the city of Hartford, it is illegal to educate a dog. Now, I couldn't find if this meant teaching them tricks, sit, roll over, or if you're trying to teach them how to drive a car or paint the house. So is it something like you're walking your dog in public and the dog has to misbehave just so it's not suspicious? I can't figure out why this would be an issue to have a dog that was smart, unless they thought you could teach the dog to go into a store and steal stuff for you. So no educating your dog. Number 2, also in the city of Hartford, it is illegal for a husband to kiss his wife on Sunday. It doesn't say anything about girlfriends, mistresses, secret other families. Only for your actual wife that you have documentation that you're married to. You cannot kiss her on Sunday in Hartford. So if you don't want to break the law and you're jonesing for a smooch, drive to the city limits and have at it. Again, this sounds like a law from the 1860s, a time when showing your ankle was considered so scandalous. So no kissing your wife in Hartford on Sundays. Unbelievably, we're going to have a trifecta here. Number 3 in a row from Hartford. It is illegal for you to cross a street while walking on your hands in Hartford. How did this even become a law? Were there people walking on their hands crossing the street? Was that a big epidemic, a problem in Hartford? Or did one person do it once as a joke and get hit by a horse and buggy and they said, all right, we got to outlaw that? And what if it's like a wheelbarrow? Someone's holding your legs and you're walking with your hands. Does that count? Because you've got someone helping you, so you're not technically walking on just your hands. What do you think the percentage is of people in this country that can walk on their hands, period, let alone cross a busy street walking on their hands? So 3 straight foolish laws from the city of Hartford. Luckily, we'll move on from there as we get to number 4. In the town of Waterbury, no beautician can hum, whistle, or sing while working on a customer. It's basically wash the hair and shut up. That sounds like the movie Footloose, except with singing. Like there's all these hairstylists that are going to break out into song while they're doing people's hair. And all the crusty old people come in and say, there's no singing allowed in Waterbury. Were there complaints from customers that some of the hairstylists just couldn't sing and it was horrible and they needed to just get their hair done in silence? Or could they not hear the TV or the music playing over the system? I'd love to know the case that made some of these laws go into effect. But yes, no singing, humming, whistling while working on customers in Waterbury if you are a beautician. And finally, last but not least, number 5, it is illegal to walk backward after sunset in the town of Devon. I don't know if this is you take 3 steps to back up because a car is coming and that's considered breaking the law. I don't know if you could moonwalk since you're not walking backwards. Your feet would be on the ground at all times. I don't know if it's legal to walk on your hands after sunset in Devon. Maybe that's better. Are there police out patrolling with the sunset time on their phones? And if they see someone walking backwards after that, it's slam them on the hood of the police car. It's another law in this series that is so random and so specific that you just wonder what caused it to be put into effect. Maybe someone was walking backward and knocked somebody in the street and they got run over. They said, all right, no more walking backwards. But there you go. Another top 5 weird laws. This time it's the state of Connecticut that we are laughing at, laughing with. Have you heard of any of these laws? Please tell me you haven't broken any of these. I would think educating the dog is the one that would be easiest to break. Walking on your hands, walking backward, all this stuff is illegal. Boy, so it is time again for the Weird Laws segment, also known as the Top 5. This week we are going to look at the Top 5 Weird Vermont Laws. This is state number 4 out of the 6 New England states. After I did the Rhode Island Weird Laws, I liked it so much and there was such a positive response that I decided to just do all 6 New England states. A funny thing, when I did the first 3 Weird Law segments, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Maine, I said I found so many laws that it was tough to cut down the number into a manageable segment. That was not the case with Vermont. I don't know if it's just something about the state itself, but there weren't as many weird laws as I found with the other states thus far. But that doesn't mean there aren't some really crazy, funny laws that we got to go over right now. As always, I've got a couple of honorable mentions to kind of get things going. There are two this week, and you'll find one is a lot crazier than the other. So, honorable mentions for weird Vermont laws. It is illegal to use colored margarine in restaurants unless the menu indicates it is permitted in 2-inch high lettering. That is very specific. And also, one more honorable mention. It was once illegal to tie a giraffe to a telephone pole. Notice I said it was once illegal. I don't know if it means that now you can do it. If you have a giraffe in Vermont, you can tie it to a telephone pole. But now let's get into the actual top 5 weird Vermont laws. Let's start with number 1. Women need permission from their spouses to get dentures. I don't know if too many dentists are strictly watching this law, but if you're a woman out there and you start losing your teeth and you're married, you need your husband's permission in order to get dentures. So if they are jerks, they could say no. Of all the things that are seen as sneaky for someone to go get behind their spouse's back, dentures I don't think is tops on the list. As I've said with a lot of these segments and laws, I don't know what would cause this to have to be made into a law in the first place. Number 2, delivery men have to walk backwards in driveways of a house worth more than $500,000. I can only assume that this is for them to prove that they didn't steal anything when walking out, which really shows how much these rich people trust their delivery men. And it does specifically say delivery men, so I don't know if you're a female delivery person, you don't have to walk backwards. And why is the cutoff a $500,000 home? You're telling me that people that have a house that's worth $450,000 can't have nice things? And again, was there an epidemic of delivery men stealing things from the houses they were delivering to, so they had to make a law instead of maybe just installing cameras? Number 3, whistling underwater is illegal. The first thing I thought of when I saw this is whistling underwater even possible? Don't you need to blow air out to whistle? So if you're underwater, what are you doing? And why is it illegal if you can do it? Do sharks hear whistling and they come in? I don't think they're like dogs. Unless back in the day people were stupid and trying to whistle underwater and drowning. And this is one of those for your own good laws, kind of like seatbelts or bike helmets. You know, when I think of safety, I think of bike helmets and seatbelts and not whistling underwater. Number 4, it is illegal to undress in public, but if you leave your house naked, it's totally fine. Now, the law is not worded that way. I just kind of threw that in. So you can't leave your house and then get naked outside, but if you leave your house naked, it's, I guess, all right. This all comes down to how do you know that they were naked coming out of their house? How do you know they didn't undress in their front yard and nobody saw them? A lot of Vermont is rural. There's not neighbors right on top of each other. And isn't this just a common sense law? If you were walking down the street anywhere and you saw someone stripping themselves naked, wouldn't you call the cops or maybe run away? I don't know. And finally, number 5 on the list of top 5 weird Vermont laws, it is illegal to put doves inside the freezer. Now, I'll make it a point to say this has to do with hunting. If you shoot doves, you can't put their carcasses in the freezer. I don't know why. I had to find other listings of this law to make sure, because at first when I saw it, I thought it actually just said putting doves inside the freezer was against the law, which would just be animal cruelty. But when looking at different sites, I did find that it was hunting. And I don't know why specifically it's doves, because they would actually fit in most freezers. And do they have people going around to houses in Vermont checking the freezer to make sure there's no doves? There's just so many funny, crazy laws that I have been finding in these 6 New England states. Go to stupidlaws.com. I put a link in the description of the podcast. if you're not from New England and you want to see what your state has for stupid laws that are on the books or used to be on the books. These have definitely been a lot of fun. Part 5 of the top 5 weird laws from all the New England states. I wonder what I'm going to do when I run out of these. Next week's episode is Weird Massachusetts Laws, and that's it for New England. And no, I'm not going to do them for every state in the country. Then it'll start to get ridiculous. But this week on the top 5, we're going to look at the top 5 weird New Hampshire laws that were either on the books and got repealed or are still on the books and no one bothers to enforce. I hope you've enjoyed these segments. I've loved researching them and putting them together. I'll put the link to stupidlaws.com in the description of the podcast again so you can see what kind of weird laws exist in your state, wherever you're from. After next week, when I finish the Massachusetts weird laws, I'm going to put together a video for YouTube that features all 6 New England states to kind of sum it up for anyone that's missed any of the episodes. But let's get into the top 5. As always, with many of these top 5s, I have honorable mentions to kind of get your appetite going. So, honorable mentions for weird New Hampshire laws. It was once illegal to bathe within sight of your own house during the day. Cleaning up any sort of trash at White Mountain National Forest could lead to a $150 fine. It is illegal to check into a hotel under an assumed name, so be careful on any weird motel hookups. It is illegal to pick seaweed up off the beach at night. And finally, the last honorable mention, you cannot sell the clothes you are wearing to pay a gambling debt. Boy, as with all of the states, there are just some weirdly specific and weirdly random laws that were either on the books or have been repealed. But let's actually start the top 5 with number 1. On Sundays, citizens in New Hampshire may not pee while looking up. I don't know if this is a look where you're shooting type of law, or if at some point in the past someone got peed on by someone who was looking up, or why it's specifically Sunday. So all the other days of the week you could just pee while staring up at the sky and it's all right. It's just so random but specific that you know there had to be some kind of an incident that led to someone going to court and having to explain why this had to be made into a law. Number 2, it is illegal to inhale bus fumes with the intent of inducing euphoria. That is how it is worded. It basically means you can't breathe in the fumes trying to get high. So I guess you would have to pretend that you were doing it accidentally. Sitting behind a bus that's idling. Is that even a thing? Are people finding their ways to stand behind buses and breathe in the fumes to just enjoy getting high from the brain damage being induced? I can just picture it being a bus driver and seeing in the rearview mirror these people sitting behind your tailpipe breathing it in with these big smiles, and the bus driver having to go to court and saying there needs to be a law against breathing in the fumes to get high. And how are you going to know they did it intentionally? Maybe it was accidental. They tripped and fell behind the bus and then whoops. And for those that really want to get high behind the bus, maybe they're looking for someone to invent a bus fume scented vape cartridge or something like that. There's $1 million idea. Number 3, no person while hunting or obviously on his way to or from hunting may have a ferret in his possession, custody, or control. I don't know why you can't have a ferret if you're going hunting. What is it about them? It's not like having a bloodhound that can go retrieve something that you've shot. Do ferrets attract certain animals that then makes it unfair? Sort of like having decoy ducks that a deer or a coyote would see a ferret and say, ooh, I gotta go get it, and then they get shot. And the law specifically says possession, custody, or control, which sounds like 3 ways of saying the same thing. Number 4, you may not tap your feet, nod your head, or in any way keep time to the music in a tavern or cafe. This sounds an awful lot like the movie Footloose. Don't you even think about dancing to the music or enjoying the music? Sit there like a robot and stare ahead. I can't figure out why this would be an issue. If you're working at the bar and people are nodding their heads, does it distract you? You can't pour the drinks right if someone's tapping their feet. And even if you had a couple hundred people inside a bar tapping their feet, I don't think it's going to be that loud that it could disturb the rest of the town. It really does sound like Footloose, just unleashed on New Hampshire. And finally, number 5 on the top 5 weird New Hampshire laws list. Before your cattle can cross the road, they must be equipped with some sort of device that collects its feces. So in other words, before you can bring your cows across the road, you've got to put a diaper on it. I get this because piles of cow poop must be pretty big, especially if dropped in the road and you run it over. Ugh. But besides a diaper, what else could you put on a cow? I mean, I guess if you had a reusable grocery bag or something, you could kind of wrap it around its tail, maybe. Would that catch everything? This law sounds like something that happened before there was automobiles and people were either horse and buggy or walking and someone just stepped in it or saw the cows pooping in the road. And has anyone ever seen pictures of cows with diapers in New Hampshire? I just want to know if this law was something that was put on the books to scare people but was never enforced, or if they actually had cows with diapers. These are the important questions that I ask on this podcast. Did cows wear diapers? But that'll wrap up the top 5 weird New Hampshire laws. Well, here we go. Ending the Weird Laws series on the top 5. I saved my home state, Massachusetts, for last. I hope you've enjoyed this series. It was something that kind of came out of nowhere, and I enjoyed putting these together. Like I've been saying, I will be putting together a video for YouTube with all 6 states, so you can hear all of the weird laws that have been a part of New England or used to be a part of New England all in one spot. But here we go. We're going to finish it up strong. As with my top 5s, there's always honorable mentions to kind of get your mind going as to what's going to be on the top 5. So, honorable mentions for weird Massachusetts laws include it's illegal to scare pigeons. In Boston, it's illegal to cut firewood in the street. If you are at a wake, it is illegal for mourners to eat more than 3 sandwiches. For some strange reason, it is illegal for a gorilla to be in the back seat of a car. And finally, it is illegal to keep mules on the 2nd floor or higher of a building unless there are at least 2 exits. But luckily, this law does not apply to those living in the city, which, like I've said with a lot of these, it's very random yet very specific. So those were the honorable mentions. Let's get into the actual top 5 weird Massachusetts laws, starting with number 1. In Provincetown, it's illegal to sell suntan oil after noon on Sunday. Again, weirdly specific yet totally random. Are there shops in Provincetown where it hits noon on a Sunday and they run and grab all the suntan lotion and suntan oil, throw it in a box and hide it? And why is protecting your skin on a Sunday afternoon a problem there? I always have to laugh at wondering how that became a law. Was there a fight in the street where they were squirting suntan oil on each other on a Sunday afternoon and it got in someone's eyes and they said, "That's it, I'm going to court"? Number 2, it is illegal to bring fowl, specifically roosters, into a bakery. When I read this law, all I could think of was that episode of Seinfeld where Kramer had the pet rooster that he called Little Jerry, where there's just people walking around the streets with pet roosters and chickens, and they go into a bakery and they get yelled at. You're not allowed in here with that. I could see this being a problem if you bring a bird into a bakery and it either attacks all the cakes and such, or other customers, or just poops everywhere. But that should be the same for any animal. If you bring a cat or a dog into a bakery, I'm sure it's going to do something. That law didn't say where it specifically stemmed from, if it was a particular town, because I'd love to know the origin story of that one. Much like I'd like to know the origin story of this next one, number 3, it's illegal to hang a vending machine on a utility pole in Boston. That's right. I said it exactly how it's worded on the sites like stupidlaws.com where I found it. So I don't know if that's how it is in the law books, that you can't hang a vending machine on a utility pole. This some kind of prank where someone puts a Coke machine way up a telephone pole to try to get people to go climb up it? Or some weird hazing ritual. We need you to go get a bag of chips from that vending machine that's 30 feet up. And how would you even get it there besides like a hook and a crane, and everyone would see it? This is an obvious law, but one that I guess needed to be put on the books. I guess someone must have done it. Luckily, no one has done this next one. Number 4, in the town of Marlborough, you may not detonate a nuclear device. This is another no-duh type of law. I would hope that it's not legal to detonate nukes in other towns in the state, but for some reason Marlborough found it necessary to put it on the books. I mean, I guess there could have been a threat, but that seems like something very specific that you would have to put on the books if someone threatened to detonate a nuke in Marlborough. It's not that big of a city. Maybe I'll have to look up because I'm curious just how many towns in this country have a similar law that makes it illegal to detonate a nuke. I would hope that it's not just here in Massachusetts and Marlborough, because that would be pretty embarrassing. And speaking of embarrassing, finally, number 5 on the list of weird Massachusetts laws, in the town of Longmeadow, it is illegal for 2 men to carry a bathtub across the town green. That sounds like something straight out of a Three Stooges or a Laurel and Hardy type of movie, walking down the street carrying a bathtub. I would think 2 people, if they were strong, could carry one, but I would think 3 people it would be easier. So is that legal? You just need to have 3 people so that no one hurts their shoulders or back? And how do you carry a typical bathtub? Is it like a casket where you're on either side holding it? Or do you get underneath it and press it overhead? I can only assume this happened in Longmeadow, that 2 people were carrying a bathtub and either it fell and broke stuff or somebody got hurt and tried to sue the town. Like it's the town's fault that you were carrying a bathtub on unstable ground. So if you're gonna go carrying bathtubs around, don't do it in Longmeadow. Massachusetts did not disappoint. I hope you enjoyed the Top 5 Weird Laws series, all 6 states. The link to stupidlaws.com is in the description of the podcast, so you can find out what kind of weird, hilarious type of laws are in your state. But until next week, that's going to wrap up mixtape number 4, Weird New England Laws. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you have the best 4th of July weekend that you can, filled with family and fun, I'm sure fireworks. I hope you enjoyed the mixtape. I will tell you that during the time that I am off filming The Cabin, there will likely be at least one mixtape, so towards the end of August, because it'll be a little hard for me to complete an actual podcast episode if I'm on set like most of the day. So get ready. If you enjoy mixtapes, I'm going to burn you another one, not a mix CD, mixtape. Stay tuned next week for episode 251. We're going to talk about the origins of CGI in general and in films, some of the weirdest implementations of it at the beginning. We're going to go back 35 years and look at the release of Terminator 2 Judgment Day, one of my favorite movies, one of the best movies I saw in the theater. And we're going to go way, way back to the bygone era of the 2000s, and I look at some passing fads. Everything on this list is already faded into obscurity, and it wasn't that long ago. But that'll be coming at you next week, episode 251 of the In My Footsteps podcast. Like I said at the beginning, if you want to support me, you can become a member on Patreon, you can buy me a coffee, you can share any of my content that you enjoy wherever you are on social media. And biggest of all, you can share and donate to the fundraiser for the cabin. This is the beginning of a very exciting chapter of my life. Fundraising, asking people for money to help me, it's not something I'm really familiar with, but you've got to get out of your comfort zone to do things that are really fulfilling and meaningful to you. Hopefully in a year and a half, I'll be doing this podcast, telling you about how excited I am that the cabin is in theaters, and maybe having another project I'm working on. But you gotta go day by day. I can't predict what's coming in the future. All I can do is kind of do my best today to hope that there's a better tomorrow. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure to take a few moments to enjoy the day. I was just thinking that where summer comes and goes pretty fast. And most of you know fall is my favorite season. I always look forward to it the most. But I think more people, or maybe that's just in my mind, more people like summer than fall. So it's like, make sure you're out there to enjoy it. Take long walks, sit at the beach if you can, or in a park, have cookouts, have friends and family over. There's always live music outdoors. Because for those of you that hate fall and winter, pretty soon it's going to get into that time of year again. Time seems to go faster the older you get. I am noticing that. Lean into the things that make you happy, whether it's favorite foods, favorite people, favorite places to go, hopefully favorite podcasts like this one. I would think if you're listening still, you enjoy it. And I will do my part to keep pumping out the content to the best of my ability. But until next week, I'm going to dismiss the class so you can get all outside and do whatever kind of fun shenanigans you want to get into. Until next week, remember, in this life, don't walk in anyone else's footsteps, create your own path, and enjoy every moment you can on this journey we call life, because you never know what tomorrow brings. Thank you all again for tuning in. This has been the In My Footsteps podcast. I am Christopher Setterlin, but you already knew that. And I'll talk to you all again soon.